Turquoise Productions.
After Sonic & Knuckles dropped in October of 1994, the world wouldn't see another mainline Sonic game until the Dreamcast era. That didn't mean the constant stream of releases would stop anytime soon. Just a month after SNK, we got another 8-bit platformer by Aspect called Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble. In Japan, it's known as Sonic and Tails 2. Contrary to the ones that came before, this title didn't get a Master System release. It did go down in history as the first Game Gear exclusive adventure for the Blue Blur. It's a direct sequel to Sonic Chaos, aka Sonic and Tails, which I thought was underwhelming but inoffensive. It felt like a blur to me, but not the fast kind. I learned about Triple Trouble when I got the Sonic Gems collection for the GameCube in 2009. Truth be told, I never gave this one a fair shot and I doubt that I've ever gotten past the first stage. It's definitely the 8-bit Sonic game I'm the least familiar with. Last year it was re-released as part of the Sonic Origins Plus package, making it more accessible to modern audiences. It's been a while since I uncovered one of the more obscure entries in the series, so I'm excited to finally dig into this 30-year-old game. Join me as I find out if I missed out on a hidden gem or if it leaves me disappointed, like its predecessor.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
Dr. Robotnik snatched the 6 Chaos Emeralds right from under Sonic's nose. How dare he? 5 of them scattered during a testing phase of his new weapon. Good old Dr. Butterfingers. Again he fools Knuckles into thinking that Sonic wants the emeralds for world domination. Of course the ever gullible Echidna believes him. Not that smart, eh? At least he can fly sideways. That's what it looks like. A new character debuts here as well. The treasure hunter Knack the Weasel, aka Fang the Sniper, aka Fang the Hunter. A varmint of many names. In Japan his name is Fang, but in Europe and North America it's Knack. It's that Eggman/Robotnik thing all over again. After this game, he goes by Fang in every region. In this video, I'll call him Knack. Anyway, Knack manages to find the 5 emeralds first. That's a shame. So overall, it's the same story as usual with a slight twist. I can live with that. Just like in Chaos, you can either play as Sonic or Tails. It shares tons of elements with that game. Sonic can still use both the spin dash and the super peel out. The pogo spring is back, but this time you get it via monitor as opposed to the metallic boxes. The rocket shoes also make a triumphant return. Tails has a similar power-up called Hyper Heli Tails. Go, 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 little buddy. That must be exhausting. The fox can fly short distances, and again you can do it by pushing up and jumping from a standstill. You can't do it mid-jump like in Sonic 3. However, it feels much less stiff than in Chaos, making it a somewhat fluid and comfortable mechanic. Both start with 4 lives and 1 continue, so playing as Tails isn't baby mode anymore. Checkpoint boxes from 8-bit Sonic 1 return, which I welcome. Bonus stages are handled differently this time around. In Chaos, all you had to do was collect 100 rings and you got transported to them right away, no fuss. This even skipped the rest of the level you were in. Here you need to collect 50 rings and find a sometimes well-hidden Chaos Emerald monitor. Doesn't sound too bad? Well, get this. There's only 1 in each of the 2 first acts of a zone. After beating a bonus stage, you still have to play the rest of the level. That's my kind of approach, because it makes you explore the levels. I try to get the most out of my games. Plus, Tails can collect Chaos Emeralds too, which is a first in the 8-bit saga. That should cover the basics, so let's check out the levels. Great Turquoise, not to be confused with Turquoise Hill Zone, is your typical tropical opening. Immediately you can see how Aspect built the stages for the Game Gear and its baby screen. That means plenty of stage features like springs that keep you bouncing in place on a single screen instead of taxing the game's hardware with more screens and objects to render. Pretty much every tree has a spring on top, so it's natural to stay on the upper path. Smart. I just don't understand why it's so annoying to pick up the lower rings above the tree. Give me the goddamn rings! In usual Sonic fashion, there are plenty of hidden passages you can access with the spin dash. The Bomba berries are irritating because often you don't see them coming unless you move at a snail's pace. A blue snail. There's no way to damage them when you bounce from spring to spring. Or is there? It took me a while to figure this out, but by pressing jump mid-air, you can perform a so-called flying spin attack. This briefly turns you into ball form and you can do this once per jump. If you don't know that, well, tough luck, sucker. Act 2 has some brief underwater parts, or oversized puddles, but you can get air anytime. As usual, the third act is always remarkably short and caps off with a boss fight. Can you guess what the boss is? Yep, it's a turtle of the robotic kind. This fight comes in 2 phases. The first is a joke. Jump at it 3 times and that's it. Then you use the small spring turtle to get up to the surface. Hey! What kind of cheap-ass bullcrap is that? The second phase left me puzzled on my first attempt, aimlessly jumping around. That's when I first learned about the flying spin attack. I guess desperation is the best teacher. Without that move, this guy is unbeatable. Once you figure out this fancy move, it's toddler-level stuff. At the end, Knuckles burns up the entire place. A little overkill maybe? Reminds me of the tragic events that took place in Angel Island Zone.
A moment of silence for that heavenly place.
This is a standard first level that does nothing terribly wrong but doesn't stand out either. Other than some sloppy enemy placement, it's a fine introduction that pulls you into the world and gets you ready for an adventure. Sunset Park takes place in an abandoned amusement park. You mean like Carnival Night Zone? It bears no resemblance to that one though. Don't expect any pretty colors here. At the start you can steal a spin coaster from a ladybuggy. Use the spin dash to get the most out of this machine. Whee!
If only happiness could always be achieved this easily.
The wind turbines don't hurt you, but they're bad news anyway. Jump into them and you'll be knocked out of your spin attack. The mosquitoes can't wait for this to happen. Almost as aggravating as in real life. Some platforms explode on contact. Yikes, I can't be the only one who thinks they're cheap. Anyway, the first 2 acts go by before you know it. There's a seamless transition between acts 2 and 3 and Sonic or Tails start running on a moving cargo train. This is an auto-scroller that has you jump into more of these bomba berries. While kind of primitive by today's standards, it must have felt mind-blowing for 1994 handheld players. The front of the train is the boss. It pelts bombs at you and you not only have to avoid them but also attack the head 3 times. Once you get the timing down, it's done in no time, but dying has you do that entire first part again, which takes an entire minute. The first time, no sweat, but then it's just plain boring and pointless. Still, I like this more unique approach. Sunset Park itself isn't exactly my favorite stage, but it's not bad either. Let's call it an average snack with a slice of delicious spin coaster. Meta Junglira initially reminds me of Jungle Zone.
Weird name, by the way. It's like they couldn't think of a good name, so they just ran jungle through a translator until it spat out something new.
For this stage, the developers brought back the breakaway bumpers from Collision Chaos. Their sole purpose is to bounce you around like a beanbag, so yeah. This stage is littered with springs, some of which are hidden. I'd say it's the bounciest level thus far, but then again, the first one had springs on trees. Let's call it a tie. The baskets shoot you up like cannons. Don't put your groceries in them. Watch out for the mud or quicksand or whatever gross muck that's supposed to be. It sucks you down like the oil in Oil Ocean Zone or the sand in Sandopolis Zone. They should have called this Mud Junglira for consistency's sake. The boss reminds me a bit of the Caterkiller from Gigalopolis Zone, but this one's way simpler. There's no way it'll hurt you, just jump at it until it goes down. Don't get fooled by that, because after the fight with the snake, its burning body parts start raining down from the trees. Due to the slow movement of Sonic and Tails, you're bound to get hurt eventually. I found it best to camp out on the edge and spin dash at the right moment. An okay boss fight. At the end, Knuckles pushes the fire switch again. Pyro Psycho. This level is better than the previous one and offers a playful experience without any crappy moments. Robotnik Winter draws inspiration from Ice Cap Zone. Right at the start is a monitor that gives Sonic a snowboard. Radical! Again, Tails isn't cool enough for winter sports, so he gets to mimic a helicopter instead. You can ride the snowboard until you jump off or crash into something. It's more than just a set piece. Keep in mind that the snow pulls you down like quicksand. Ah, the icy embrace of death. But don't worry, I didn't encounter any bottomless pits underneath, so there's no risk. Not even the actual pits pose a threat because the wind blows you up. Okay, take that back, some of them are death traps. This is why gamers have trust issues. Getting up these springs can be tricky. It's hard to explain, but here you need to hold right and press jump mid-air to make it over to the right. Kind of defies logic. The penguin bombers are hilarious. Whoever designed them deserves a raise. Even cute little penguins can, unfortunately, be overdone. On that note, here's Act 3. You need to scramble up the icy slopes while dodging an avalanche of penguins. Turns out an even bigger bird spits them at you. It's one of those bosses that gets easier the more hits you land. At first you might take damage from the engines. One by one they get turned off and then it's just a pushover. After the fight, Knuckles burns up the place once again. Oh, never mind, this time it's a blizzard.
A+ for creativity, Knuckles.
Now that I stop and think of it, this might be my #1 stage. Except for that one cheap death and the long ass slope, I'm having a great time here. Snowboarding hedgehogs are always winners. Tidal Plant, not to be confused with Tidal Tempest, is the Triple Trouble water stage. We've had a few 8-bit takes so far, and the one in Sonic Chaos was even my favorite level in that game. Spoiler alert, here it's the complete opposite. But let's start with the positive. Air bubbles make a reprise, but contrary to Sonic 2, they don't burst when you touch walls. That makes it tolerable. Plus I like the animations. If I was Tails, I'd feel sick. Help! I can feel my sanity bouncing around in my stomach. Somebody pop that thing for God's sake. 2 new power-ups are introduced. Sonic gets a new pair of screw shoes. Yes, your eyes don't deceive you. Sonic can swim. Only for a fleeting little moment, but this actually blows my mind a bit. It controls similarly to the rocket shoes and is just as fun. Tails on the other hand gets an entire submarine, the Sea Fox. This thing's not only great for underwater traversal, but it can bore through some of the walls. I lost it early, but I won't let my lack of skill keep me from praising this vehicle. Unfortunately, this level brings back the dreaded tubes.
Not the tubes. Anything but the tubes.
They just make things confusing and I don't find this mechanic intuitive. Act 2 in particular is a slog and without question my least favorite part of the game. I especially detest the mines that drop down on you out of nowhere. Sure, you can hear them, but often I found there wasn't enough time to react, making me go back and get that bubble again. I even managed to get a game over on my first attempt. The boss is a certain Red Echidna. He first throws 2 bombs and then shoots a torpedo. Easy pattern. I was wondering if I was doing any damage at all because he takes 16 hits. Tails even had his Sea Fox, but I couldn't get close enough. Only after I played did I read that it has torpedoes. Usually every button does the same in these old Sonic games, so I didn't even consider pushing more than one. Well, now I know. Yeah, so this is a low point, the pits, which means it can only get better. Atomic Destroyer is the final zone. Visually, it reminds me of Electric Egg Zone with its metallic look. Again, it's tubes that spoil the fun and encapsulate your misery. But in all honesty, we've definitely seen worse. Like the previous stage, it feels like a maze, especially Act 2. It took me a few tries to figure out how to leave this stage, shooting across the room from tube to tube and seemingly going in circles. Stepping on switches either shoots lasers or hurls these little fellas at you.
Man, I'm just glad the 16-bit games never had levels like this. It becomes exhausting.
It's far from the nightmare that was Scrambled Egg Zone, so I'll give it a pass. Act 3 starts with a race against Metal Sonic? So he's in this game too?
Doesn't that make it quadruple trouble then?
Your hands are tied here. No matter which buttons you mash, he'll eventually catch up and wail on you. Stay calm though. Jump at him 3 times and then avoid his electric shield. It's an endurance round that will probably test your patience more than your nerves. After a checkpoint, Sonic or Tails meet Knack the Weasel, but uh-oh, he runs off in fear. Thus begins the first phase of the fight against Robotnik. It's a joke. Keep bouncing on him without ever risking getting hurt. He's no match for the relentless yo-yo of justice. Phase 2 is hardly any tougher. Continue with the jumps, but watch out for his predictable flame attacks. After that he shoots energy balls and electricity, but they're just as easy to dodge. After 17 hits, it's on to the final phase. This one's a different beast. You see, Robotnik keeps going in circles around this chamber. The ceiling is lined with cannons, 4 to be exact, that keep firing energy bolts down on you. So you need to hit him from the side at the right moment while dodging the shit from above. I don't need to tell you how tricky this was. Maybe I was unlucky, but every time I tried to attack, an energy bolt would drop down in front of me at that exact moment. Torment, that's how it felt. Dismay, aggravation. More words like that. Sometimes Robotnik stops and the entire chamber turns into a danger zone. The only way to avoid getting hurt is to hide in the opposite tube. I failed a few times, but ultimately it's nothing compared to the previous 2 8-bit end bosses. Overall, Atomic Destroyer is a mixed experience that I certainly wouldn't call a highlight. It's a mid-light. Mid-tone? That'll do.
Again, there are two different endings, depending on if you got all the Chaos Emeralds. I already explained how to get through the bonus stages and kept you in suspense, so let's finally check them out.
There are two different types. The first, third and fifth are maze-like levels which get progressively more complicated. There's a twist. You have a 90-second time limit, but you'll occasionally find monitors that reset your time. The first one is littered with hidden springs. The other two have platforms that only become visible while standing on them. The only round that really killed me was the fifth. That's because against your instincts you have to carefully stand on the breakable blocks without destroying them to get up. Unless you're Tails, of course. Cheap two-tailed bastard. I don't like this part in particular because it's heavy on trial and error. Fall into a bottomless pit and you lose, which means you have to find another Chaos Emerald monitor in the next act. I don't know, I guess they're fine overall, but aren't exactly my preferred take on bonus stages. Give us a little imagination, a chance to mix up the gameplay from the adventure mode with a new playstyle or something upbeat like that. Part of me was just going through the motions, imagining the other places I'd rather be. Number 2 and 4 are something else entirely. We're talking about pseudo 3D stages where Sonic or Tails fly a plane. Your job is to collect 80 rings. Bombs will stun you for a short moment. At first I thought this would be as frantic as the Mega Drive Sonic 2 half-pipe, but no. In stage 2 I never got hit once, and in 4 it didn't really make a difference. Even though I missed a whole bunch of rings because the plane moves very slowly, I never failed. Just tell me one thing. Why do they keep looking at me every other second? It makes me paranoid. He's staring in judgment like,
Where did you learn to fly?
look ahead for God's sake. You're the one who never should have been given a pilot's license.
How would you like it if I looked back 90% of the time while I'm driving? Where did you learn to fly?
For the lack of challenge, I don't hold it in high regard, but it's a harmless way to pass the time. That's not all, however. Bonus stages 2 through 5 have a boss fight at the end. Yep, it's time for Knack the Weasel to shine. He also appears after the first, but you don't fight him. The battles are, without exception, laughably easy. In stage 2 he just zips around, and in 3 he throws a tantrum, flies around and goes down after only 3 hits. In 4 he shoots a missile, but eventually gets hit by it himself, even if you don't attack him at all. In the last encounter he flies around with a drill, and hitting him doesn't seem to do anything again. After some time he burrows into the ground, and that's when you strike. Overall forgettable, but nice for variety's sake. The bad ending shows Knack running off with the Chaos Emeralds you didn't find. You don't even get credits. The good ending just has Sonic and Tails flying off into the sunset to the credits. Hideo Kojima? Is that you? This ending is lackluster and definitely not worth it. Something I missed the first time around is that you can press up or down on the title screen. This leads you to a sound test. Yay! More importantly, there's a time attack mode. Awesome, I love the one in Sonic 3. Sadly, this is nothing to boast about. It's just one isolated act of Great Turquoise without enemies. The Great Empty Blue Nothing. That's fine and all, but due to the Game Gear's lack of battery backup, your times don't get saved. You don't even get a list before you turn the game off. I completely failed to see the point.
You know the drill. Let's talk about the music and sound.
Similar to Sonic Chaos, I'm not too keen on the audio, to be honest. As soon as you turn the game on, your ears are tortured. Don't get me wrong, it's a step up from its predecessor. There aren't as many awful high-pitched sounds. That goes for the music too. If we rewind for a second, I think the first two 8-bit games had pretty solid music. Wish I could say the same for the later games. Chaos' soundtrack didn't impress me, and Triple Trouble hardly left a trace.
When I turn off the game, I can't seem to remember any other tunes, just the headache from the startup sound.
The overall audio quality and melodies just don't speak to me in the same way as the first two titles did. There are two tracks I straight up dislike. Atomic Destroyer stresses me out with its blistering tempo. Bleeps and Boops just aren't metal. The other is the 2D bonus stages, home of some nasty synth tones I'd rather never hear again. The rest is mostly unremarkable. Take Sunset Park for example. I like the melody, but it still fails to leave an impression. Not even the boss music triggers any sort of emotion from me. It's just kind of there. The final boss music doesn't capture the urgency of the situation at all. There are only 2 tracks that rise above the mundane. Great Turquoise continues the tradition of opening the game with a catchy tune. The other is the train boss in stage 2, where I like this part in particular. Now we're talking. I want more of this. It's a shame because I've heard some great stuff on the Game Gear. Oh well.
Let's wrap this thing up.
Sonic Triple Trouble is an improvement over Sonic Chaos. For starters, it's not as laughably easy. Don't get me wrong, it's not a hard game by any means. You will never run out of continues. In usual Sonic fashion, Aspect sprinkled a few bullshit deaths throughout the journey for flavor, but there aren't nearly as many bottomless pits or cheap spike traps as we've seen in other entries. It's more well balanced in that regard. The levels themselves seem larger, full of branches you can take to reach the goalpost. The return of checkpoints is a relief. I'd say this is the most fun 8-bit entry to explore so far, at least for the first 4 levels. The stages differ from each other and I find them a lot more engaging with actual variety thrown in. The new power-ups feel like little surprises and I appreciate that both protagonists have some of their own. Snowboard or submarine? Both cool. Without a doubt, this game plays better than any of the Game Gear ports of the past. Aspect worked out the kinks and mastered the controls. It doesn't feel as floaty anymore. Most importantly, it shows that this game was designed with the handheld console in mind. Before this, they were ports of Master System games, so the only solution was repurposing and squeezing them down into a portable form factor. This was especially problematic in Sonic 2, which was almost unplayable at times. Yes, you do occasionally run into enemies and obstacles you didn't see coming, but it's comparatively rare. Again, I don't understand why the bosses take different amounts of hits. Only 3? 16 or 17? And sometimes the hits don't count at all. Why change the rules so often? The colorful graphics are outstanding with nice character models and detailed backgrounds. Level 3 in particular has a stunning 8-bit jungle setting. They sure figured out how to maximize the Game Gear's palette. I just wish the audio was in the same league because a great soundtrack can elevate the experience to new heights.
Before we take a look at my new ranking, I'd like to make a few adjustments to my current ranking of the games I reviewed so far.
Until now I've kept it to 1 version per game, but I've kind of regretted that decision for a while now. So please let me add the missing games to the list. I'm placing Sonic 1 on Game Gear, Sonic Chaos on Master System, and Sonic Spinball on Mega Drive directly under their respective superior ports. The Game Gear version of Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is under 8-bit Sonic 1. Sonic 2 on Game Gear is at the bottom of the barrel. I feel this is more fair and accurate. So where does Triple Trouble fall? After much consideration and soul searching, I'm placing it between the Game Gear ports of Sonic 1 and Mean Bean. While I admire the improvements made over Chaos, I consider the first 2 games to be more fun and memorable overall. Except for the second Game Gear title, of course. If it had better sound and less mazes, it might have climbed up a notch. Nonetheless, I had a decent time with this entry and don't regret finally giving it a fair swing. I'm aware there's a fan-made 16-bit version of the game that's met glowing reviews. As of this recording, I have yet to play it. If you're interested in some of the more obscure early Sonic titles, this is worth digging up. It's a curiosity piece.
Those of you who are just into 16-bit or more modern titles can easily skip this one without spiraling into regret. It's a charming little game that might grow on me over time.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching episode 6 of season 4. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.